Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Off the Sideline podcast, and hosted by the man who seems to be having a better season than Russell Wilson. I am Jackson Kruger. That's right. Back here by myself. Kyle couldn't make it this week. Again, unfortunate the weeks that Kyle can't make it with the with the On the Sideline Bowl with Bucs Patriots here. But yes, I'll be doing the show solo. And listen, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do, because if you missed last week, Kyle has announced that he will, this will be his last season on the show, which no bad blood. He has a real person job and all that stuff, and he's being very generous, willing to stay on for the end of the season here, because it is a lot of work, and it is, not to get into the finances, but it is very much a hobby with us. It's not pay a ton. Podcasting doesn't exactly make a ton of money unless you're one of those super high up podcasters, but we enjoy doing it. But yeah, so again, for this week, Kyle just couldn't make it. But let me know if you like these Off the Sideline podcasts, because I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do once Kyle leaves. Maybe I'll just keep it this way. Maybe I'll do something else. But yeah, let's get into the show. So, as always, we're going to start off with the Sunday night show. You have the Chargers beating the Steelers pretty handedly in this game. Interesting ways to go about this. So neither quarterback played very well to start this game. I think Herbert definitely settled in, and the Chargers offense settled in largely due to Ladd McConkey making a lot of really nice plays here on key spots. Also just the Steelers defensive backs continuing to go down with injury. That was a part of it. That certainly helped things for the Los Angeles Chargers. And I think the biggest thing for the Chargers, though, is their defense just looks solid again. Their defense is playing good football. And listen, they have work to do to try and win the division, just given Kansas City is still looming. You can never count them out. They're the villain in the horror movie, right? They look dead, but you can't say they are just yet. And then you obviously have to catch the Broncos as well. You do have a win over every team in your division at this point. That certainly helps things. But, ultimately, I think if you're a Chargers fan, more than any of that, you just want to see your team playing good football. And this defense is playing really good football these past couple of weeks after maybe not playing, up to the standard for, when they had kind of that stretch where they weren't winning games. The Colts putting up 38, even the Dolphins putting up 27, losing to the Commanders, losing to the Giants. Like, being able to kind of get back on track defensively is important. The flip side is not a great Aaron Rodgers game. The Steelers team continues to be fluky. I mean, they've done some positive things. Anyone saying the Steelers team is like a bad team is that's not true. But it does just feel like this is, again, it's every year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? They're consistently good and never great, and you just kind of feel like that's what it is again. And for Rodgers, like, listen, the signing for Rodgers has been a success this season. Rodgers has been great. This was not his best game, though, and it does feel like if Rodgers isn't carrying this team, they're not winning many games, which makes you say, like, okay, with a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, what is the ceiling of this team? They're now just one game ahead of Baltimore with they still play Baltimore twice this season. I don't know. Again, I think everyone, I imagine the Vegas odds are pretty heavily in Baltimore's favor to win the division at this point. And I felt like you had it locked just 3 weeks ago. So really tough. And now with the defensive back injuries, I mean, it's not a great situation for the for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, again, the Steelers have been inconsistent. Just like you shouldn't be too optimistic after their good games, you can't get too down after their bad games. And they do play Cincinnati next week, although that's a team they've lost to. And then kind of a big game against the Bears. Both teams will need that one. So have to get back on track there. But big win for the Chargers, who feel like they're the Chargers again. Let's move on here. Let's find another game. Where do we want to go with this one? Well, let's do the Falcons Colts. I think this was a great game early on. An incredible ending to this one with the Atlanta Falcons. Listen, playing a lot better than we've seen. The Falcons continue to be a very up and down team up until this point. You're not disappointed with your performance if you're a Falcons fan, but you are disappointed with the result as a game they kind of needed to win. If they were 4-5, you look at Tampa Bay losing and having a tough couple of games and still having a game against them, you're feeling like you have a shot, a puncher's chance there. But losing here is really tough. Atlanta was in control of this game for a good chunk of it. The Colts get up to a little bit of a lead, but the Colts do not score in the second or third quarters. So Atlanta kind of was driving, and then kind of all hell broke loose at the end. Jonathan Taylor had an 83-yard rushing touchdown. The Atlanta Falcons answered with a touchdown of their own. The Colts faced, I believe it was a 3rd and 21, but Daniel Jones was able to run and pick up like 19 of those yards on a scramble. On the next play, they convert a 4th and 2 that didn't look like they were going to convert it. They tied a game with a field goal. And then in overtime, there was a weird coin toss situation. So if you missed the game, I forget which one was which, but it's in Germany, so it's not in Atlanta or Indianapolis. Usually, what happens is the away team gets to choose if they want to kick or receive, but the official told the wrong team to call it in the air, and so because of that, they had to redo the whole sequence. So in the first one, the Colts won and wanted the ball. In this situation, the Falcons won and wanted the ball first. But also keep in mind, there's new overtime rules. So I actually thought that it was a bit of a mistake by the Falcons to elect to receive. I think they would have been better off losing the coin toss because then on 4th down, they don't go for it. They punt the ball away, but you go for it if you know you need to go for it in that situation. So ultimately, nonetheless, Daniel Jones he didn't have a great game in this one, but made some big plays at the end. Still ends up like 10 yards per attempt. Jonathan Taylor, obviously the stat line there is 244 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's impressive. That's good stuff there by Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I didn't think that the issue with the Colts that you have to feel if you're a Colts fan is they can't keep putting the ball in harm's way. They had a couple of turnovers in this game, but it was just they should have had way more. They had several fumbles that were not recovered by the defense. They had a dropped pick in there. Like they need to be better at that stuff if they're going to go on a long run. I thought Sauce Gardner played all right. Did get burned by Drake London on a key 3rd down situation, but also made some plays as well. So had an he dropped a pick 6 too. He had an up and down day. Michael Penix had an up and down day. Drake London's really good though. I mean, it's you're gonna get beat by him sometimes. So ultimately, the Colts move up to 8-2, even if it wasn't always perfect. It was impressive. For Jonathan Taylor, he's in the MVP conversation. He's I'm trying to remember exactly where the odds have him. He's it's easy when Kyle's here because when Kyle's here, he will tell he can say something and then I can Google and figure something out. Now I have to try and Google while speaking. I guess I could edit it out. This isn't live, but here he is. It is John Taylor is 4th on the MVP odds. Listen, again, there's the whole running back. Can a running back really be an MVP? I think the running game is certainly like an MVP candidate if you could include all of that for the Colts. And I certainly will say Jonathan Taylor, he was the MVP of this game. So huge win for the Indianapolis Colts. Let's move on. Well, let's talk about my team who ultimately falls short to the New England Patriots. Again, unfortunate that Kyle had to choose this week of all weeks to miss it. I'm sure if he knew this game went the way it did, he would find a way to, Kyle's missed 2 shows and they've been 2 incredible shows. It's the Patriots beating the Bills on Sunday Night Football and then the Patriots beating the Buccaneers. So maybe he needs to miss more shows for his team's sake. But the Patriots score a touchdown in every quarter to get them to 28 points. That's interesting. Drake May plays fantastic in this game. Baker Mayfield plays better in this game than we've seen him the past couple of weeks, although ultimately, some big plays from New England offensively. It was very interesting where it felt like one of those games where it's like a baseball game where a team only has 4 hits, but they have like 4 home runs or something like that. When the Patriots had a play work, it went for a long touchdown, it felt like, and then they didn't have a lot work outside of that, but May made enough plays even outside of that to still make things work. Tampa Bay did have an opportunity late in the game driving to try and score a touchdown. They had a 3rd down and 3 inside New England's 35-yard line, and ultimately both plays they were not able to convert on. Neither team was able to run the ball much in this one, which we kind of expected going in. I know Trayvon Henderson's numbers look good because he had a couple of long runs, but on a play in and play out basis, it was not great. But again, he made the plays when he had to. Henderson had a couple of nice plays. The rookies, Trayvon Henderson and Kyle Williams, two guys who have struggled to get on the field, both showed why they were drafted when they were drafted. And I kind of think the underrated MVP of this game was Christian Gonzalez, who, Mecca Egbuka kind of lit up the Patriots offense, or excuse me, the Patriots defense early on the first possession. And since then, Gonzalez was on Egbuka basically the entire game. Egbuka had a little bit more, but not a lot else. And Gonzalez was able to kind of shut that down. And once that got shut down, Tampa Bay just, with their injuries, they don't have anyone else there. So Kate Otten was able to make plays now that he doesn't have to block because of the Tampa Bay's had their injury issues to their line. They got Luka Decky back. That's helped them. But, two good teams. And I'll say this too. And again, I'm excited to tell Kyle this take, but I kind of feel like the Patriots are my team in the AFC right now. Like, I think that they're the favorite. Both the Broncos offense has been too fluky. The Chiefs and Bills have both been too up and down this season. The Colts are very good, but also they keep putting the ball in harm's way these past couple of weeks. That's concerning me. I think New England's my pick. If I have to pick one right now, I think they're the favorite. So we'll see if it goes. But yeah, and Drake May favored to win. He is number one in MVP odds right now, although Stafford's just behind him. So that's interesting. That's fun that those two guys are there. Let's move on. Still some interesting games to talk about. Jacksonville and Houston. This was an interesting game. So you have, for a while, this wasn't an interesting game. Let's say that. So going into the week, CJ Stroud got injured last week. Houston Texans were 3-5, and to be honest, they didn't look great with CJ Stroud out of the game with Davis Mills playing last week. So not super high expectations, although it's like, okay, Houston has a great defense. Can that keep them in the game? And early on, it could not. Jacksonville was dominating this matchup. They enter the fourth quarter with a 29-10 lead. And it's like, this is a game that you turn off if you're like a Texans fan and say, whatever, we'll get them next year, really, because I think we talked about the schedule. It's like at 3-6, they still have to play the Bills, the Colts, and the Chiefs. You basically have to go 2-3 in that, or win 2 of 3 in that stretch to have a chance if you lose this game. Now, at least you only have to go 1-2 if you feel like 10 wins can get you into the playoffs. Now you'd have to sweep everyone else, and you still have, you have the Colts twice, actually. So that makes it even tougher. But the Colts twice, the Bills, and the Chiefs. Basically now they still have to go 2-2 in that stretch. They would have had to go 3-1 with a loss here. So still an uphill climb, but you play the Titans next week. That gets you to 500. It's a huge win. Let's talk about the game, though, and how it happened. So Davis Mills and the Texans are struggling. All of a sudden, they get this long drive to get a touchdown, and the Jaguars' offense completely goes cold. I believe they have 3 straight 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter. That's a huge part of this because we always view comebacks from one perspective, the team that's trailing's offense. But if the team that's up can just get some drives going, nothing else is going to matter. They can't get anything going. And Houston, all of a sudden, their offense just starts clicking. Davis Mills rushes for the go-ahead touchdown. Nico Collins was a huge deal in this game when he he's been a little bit up and down this season. He looked like not prime Nico Collins, but he looked like the Nico Collins we saw last year. He was fantastic, 136 yards, made some tough catches in this game, and they're able to it was just touchdown, get the quick stop, touchdown, get the quick stop, touchdown, get the quick stop. And even at the end for the Jaguars, Lawrence not having his best day, and obviously you're feeling horrible about how the fourth quarter has gone, they still had the ball with like a minute left. And, Cam Little, we know his leg. We know that if he can get to midfield, he can maybe win it. But ultimately, they just weren't even, they actually kind of got to their own 45, which Cam Little would have tried it from there, 72 yards. They would have tried it. He hit a 70-yarder in preseason, but it was just a bit too far. But what ended up happening was they got knocked back 10 yards due to a penalty. That was a bit too far, and because of it, Jacksonville ended up losing this one, falls to 5-4. So for them, where's their situation? Well, they're okay. For one thing, I mean, they still have to play the Colts twice as well. They also have to play the Broncos, which is not good. So you have those three losses and the Charger, excuse me, three tough games. They're not guaranteed losses, but three games they will be underdogs in. The Chargers, we'll see how that goes. You do have some winnable games as well, though. So it's up and down. This was a tough loss, though. It just was. Being 6-3 would have just meant so much more than being 5-4. And there's a very real chance that we're looking at this a little bit and saying, yeah, that's the difference in them making the playoffs and missing it when it's all said and done. So really just a loss that should not have happened and a loss that did happen. So yeah, not ideal there. Let's move on. Well, how about let's go to another game that got away from someone, the Giants, who can't stop blowing these games. They have done this so many times. They're 2-8. This does not feel like they are a 2-8 team, but they are because they keep losing. So, I mean, that's how it goes. They technically had it was under 4 minutes that the Bears got a score to bring them within single digits. That was a 10-point lead with around 4 minutes left. Granted, that was right when the score happened. But nonetheless, that was the situation. The Chicago Bears, the offense, it's weird because I didn't think it was like going like horrible, but they just the Giants defense just continues to have these games where they play well. They're playing up to their competition here against the Chicago Bears. And late in it, I thought Caleb Williams made some really nice plays out of structure. I mean, the one thing the Bears did was they won the turnover battle, 1-0, but still not turning the ball over was important. You had some really nice out of structure plays from Caleb Williams. And the other aspect here was Jackson Dart gets banged up. And listen, I'm not saying it's like this specific play is an indication of anything, but you keep taking these hits over and over again. Eventually one is gonna take you out of the game. And this has been an issue with him. And it's just one of those things where, and again, I'm not saying the specific hit that he got injured on was his fault or anything like that, but you take these hits enough times and it happens. And this is just the reality of the situation with him not out there. Like, they just can't seem to run their offense with Russell Wilson. I mean, there was a play where it's like Russell Wilson doesn't even pick up a blitz that was like clearly there, and it doesn't even know how to like set his protection. Like, dude, you've been in the league for forever. How are you messing this up? And then fourth down play, it gets tipped. Like the offense just does not run well when it is Russell Wilson out there. It does run pretty well with Dart out there, but like, yes, his rushing is a part of his game. And again, the guy had 66 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. He is a dual threat. You want to make that part of his game, but you can make that a part of your game and also protect yourself, right? Lamar Jackson doesn't make needless hits. He'll take some hits here and there, but he protects himself. Josh Allen protects himself. Patrick Mahomes protects himself. And for Dart, you're not as big as some of those other guys. So you got to really make sure you protect yourself if you're gonna be successful. And this is maybe a lesson of like just showing how much his team needs him, because when they didn't have him in the fourth quarter to run out the clock, they needed him. But for the Chicago Bears, again, the theme of the season has been winning games you don't expect them to win. And part of it is winning the turnover battle. But part of it was just, playing fundamentally good football down the stretch. They executed plays. And honestly, again, I was really impressed with what Williams did out of structure toward the end of this game. I mean, there were plays that weren't working, and he was finding a way to make them work. So you get the important win to go up to 6-3, and for the Bears continuing to try and make the playoffs here. We'll see if they're able to pull it off. They still have some tough games on the schedule, but again, to at least be in the mix here, in the hunt, here in mid-November, it will be mid-November when they play their next game. That's got to feel great after how things have gone recently. So let's move on. Well, let's go Ravens Vikings. I think this was a important game for both of these teams. So while the Vikings are not dead, it would have been a good win for them, and it ends up being a good win for the Ravens, who have now all of a sudden won 3 straight games, 2 of those with Lamar Jackson back and healthy. Offense I think Brian Flores gave them a little bit of fits in this game. They also did make some key plays when they needed to. Really, the biggest thing for the Ravens, though, is their defense looks good again. And this kind of happened last year. Remember, last year, the Ravens defense was atrocious for the first half of the season. all of a sudden they shuffled some things around in their secondary and they became like one of the best defenses in football. Well, I'm not saying they're one of the best defenses in the football, but they look way better. Part of that is Roquan Smith coming back. He looked like he had an interception in this game. Ultimately, it was not ruled that way, but he was able to, he has a huge impact on this team. I think that's definitely a factor. So, JJ McCarthy is a wild person. He's putting the ball in harm's way with a couple of these plays. One of the interceptions looked like his receiver fell, Justin Jefferson, who the Ravens were able to limit in this one. Jalen Naylor went off. He had a lot of good plays, but McCarthy, still makes some of those rookie mistakes. I think still has some accuracy issues. He does. He also can make some really nice plays, though. He was up and down in this game. But ultimately, they need a little bit more up and a little less down for them to pull it off against Baltimore, who, again, very much in the thick of things here. At 4-5, they have some winnable games in their next 3 weeks. The Browns, the Jets, and the Bengals. Those could all be wins. They do still play the Steelers twice. They play the Packers and the Patriots. And another Bengals game is the rest of their schedule. So, 4 games they'll be favored in. That puts you at 8 wins. And then you got the Steelers twice, the Patriots, and the Packers. It's like, if 10 wins gets you in, can you win 2 of those games? They can. Will they? Well, remains to be seen, but should be interesting. Okay, so where do we want to go next on this list? Not a lot of great games. We can do Saints-Panthers, right? What a disappointment by the Panthers, who, as a Tampa Bay fan, given how my team played, I did. I mean, I think this is a compliment to the Panthers as a team, that I was paying attention to their record, hoping that they would lose, because they were 5-4, were playing better, came off a big win against New England, but to come here and lay an egg, Tyler Shuck played great in this game, by the way. Let's definitely give him some props. So over 10 yards per attempt in this one. I want to dive deeper into the film. Film study will be coming out at some point about Shuck this week, because that's really fascinating, him being able to have a really good game against a defense that's played well this season. It really has. But Chris Olave with 100 yards, Juwan Johnson over 90. That was kind of it offensively, but hey, at least passing wise, but that's still pretty good. Kamara didn't do a ton in the ground, but they didn't need a ton in the ground. They were able to get to 17, which was 10 more points than the Panthers. And this is just the issue with the Panthers, right? I mean, the Rico Dowdle thing has been very fun this season, but like, if they can't run the ball, they're just, the best teams in football have a plethora of ways to win, right? Like, you look at the Chiefs over the years, they have won games when Mahomes hasn't played great. Obviously, the Patriots could beat you anyway back then, like the teams with the best records right now. The Colts would have a game where Daniel Jones goes off, then they have a game where Jonathan Taylor goes off. They have games where their defense plays really well, right? You have different ways to win. The Panthers really need, they can't win with the game on Bryce Young's back right now. They just can't. And it's not just his fault. They don't have a ton of weapons. It really is Ted McMillan and friends in the receiving core. But ultimately, they just can't push the ball down the field. And even if Carolina can get into the playoffs, that's why you view them as probably a one and done team because of that. So tough loss, because getting this one, again, if you're trying to catch Tampa Bay, it's, had they won this game, they would have had as many wins as Tampa Bay. Now, one more loss as well, because they haven't had their bye week yet. But nonetheless, I mean, that's still something. And Tampa Bay has a couple tough weeks here now for Carolina. Again, you're starting to wonder, can you get into the playoffs without having to sweep Tampa Bay? I don't know. Now, they had a couple of interesting weeks coming up. Atlanta next week and San Francisco the following week. Kind of feels like that could decide the the 7th seed, perhaps, San Francisco and Carolina. But I don't know. Should be interesting. Give the Saints credit. Although for Saints fans, maybe a little disappointed that ultimately this takes you out of a potential first overall pick situation right now, as they had the first overall pick. Now winning this takes them out of it. Tennessee, the only 1-win team on the books, and for the 2-win teams, the Saints currently would not be picking ahead of Cleveland. Would be the one team that would be ahead of them, although Cleveland has one less loss on the season, but ultimately could get that could flip. So so basically saying hurts their draft stock a little bit, could end up still with the first overall pick, but Tennessee right now the front runner to get the first overall pick, which they had last year. Not a great season for Tennessee. At least didn't lose this week. Good job, the Titans there. Let's move on. Let's go to the. Do I want to go to the Browns Jets game? I'll be honest, I didn't get a ton of eyeballs on this game. The 1 o'clock window was tough. A lot going on. My team's playing, trying to make stuff happen. Neither offense looked, from what I did see, neither offense was able to move the ball too effectively, even though the score ends up being relatively high. It's a weird situation where it's 27-20, but the Jets have 3.6 yards per play and the Browns have 4 yards per play, and there's only 1 turnover. So it's not like there was a ton of that. There was some special teams stuff going on. That was a part of this game for sure. Specifically with the Jets, who again, Justin Fields goes 6 for 11 with 54 passing yards in a victory. That's a winning stat line for Fields. I think he might have ended up. Well, there's a debate or a question as to if he was going to end up with negative passing yards. I don't know what ended up happening there, but there was a kick return touchdown for the Jets. Jets pull off the victory. Gabriel, it was looking like, okay, they have to go to Shedeur Sanders now. Gabriel's just not playing well. He did then make some plays to kind of get them back in it. But the Jets are able to just, hey, don't let Quinshon Judkins get loose and you're okay. Big win for the Jets. Not really, but win in a sense. I guess, again, another team that could have been potentially getting the first overall pick. In fact, they would have been in line for the first overall pick had they lost this game. So if you're thinking that way, maybe it's a bad win for them. But, it goes to show, I think, for Aaron Glenn, who is trying to show that he can do something, getting another win here, going with the Dan Campbell philosophy of you got to start to establish a winning culture. You can't just accept losing and try to get a better draft pick. You have to try and show something, even if you're not a great team. Being able to beat another not great team, there is something to it. So again, whatever. Not a game we have to spend forever on, but we'll spend a little bit on it. Okay, 5 games left. Well, let's do Thursday night. I haven't done Bills Dolphins yet. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. I'm waiting way too long on that. I forgot about that game. But we will do Raiders Broncos first. See, if Kyle was here, he would have reminded me of it. This is why maybe the Off the Sideline podcast. I'll have to figure it out. I'll have to figure out the solo format if I decide to do this when Kyle is permanently gone. But you see, this is this game. It was a. I think what summed up this game, Bo Nix. So the Broncos are up 3 points in the fourth quarter. Bo Nix throws a bad interception late that gives the Raiders a chance to get in. They're already basically on the outside of field goal range. Potentially to at least tie the game at 10. They don't get too much more yards, so they have to settle for the field goal, and then they miss the field goal. And it's that's this game. It was a defensive affair. This was a gross game. Both defenses showed up, but again, I think for the Broncos, listen, hey, we've seen teams have bad games, especially bad divisional games and especially bad Thursday night divisional games. Look at what Buffalo did this week. I'm sure they would love to say, "Oh no, we only won by 3." All right? They lost the game. It's hard to win football games, and the Broncos have won 8 of them this season, which is tied for the most. But you still just feel a little bit again, they're it's similar to what I said about Carolina, although they're a better team than Carolina. It's can this offense really do this for 4 playoff games and not have you lose any of them? Now, maybe they only have to do it for 3 playoff games so they can get the 1 seed, which again, tied for the 1 seed right now. Although being in their division, it is going to be tough. They have another Chargers game. They actually play the Packers again. Or not again. They play the Packers this season, and they play the Chiefs twice, including next week. So they're going to have some work to do, and you just don't feel you feel as though first off, you have to win one of those Chiefs games to make sure you get the division, right? But you feel as though the offense is going to have to figure itself out. It doesn't have to be an elite offense. That's not to be the best offense in football because their defense is good. You just can't put in a performance like this. Bo Nix did not play well in this game. And I think I'm the world's most reluctant Bo Nix defender at this point. I think he does some nice things. I think he runs the offense effectively. I wasn't crazy about him as a rookie, even though a lot of people were. But he's definitely not played as well this season. Maybe it's a sophomore slump. I don't know. But you need for him to figure it out. It's okay if things aren't working perfectly. You just can't be turning the ball over like this. So a win is a win. Give the Raiders credit for fighting these past couple of weeks. They look better. Brock Bowers, even with him getting taken out of the game, just his impact helps things. Although the offense still struggled, but yeah, essentially take out Brock Bowers and you're gonna beat the Raiders probably. Easier said than done, but yeah. Let's talk Bills Dolphins. I mean, yeah, what a surprise, right? Who saw this coming? The Miami Dolphins. I mean, divisional matchups, weird things happen. Tua threw two picks in this game. I think one of them was early on, and Scott Hansen on Red Zone was like, yeah, been kind of that season for the Miami Dolphins. And then all of a sudden, they're really able to have success. And a big part of this was turnovers. And even though the Dolphins had two turnovers of their own, Buffalo's had turn the Buffalo's the Bills had turnovers in really inopportune times, right? I mean, there was a moment when I'm trying to remember the exact, I believe it was 16-0 in the third, if I remember correctly. Josh Allen has the ball and has a situation where they can at least get three, but they want to get into the end zone and go for a touchdown. And Allen kind of has a one-on-one matchup. Him and his receiver it's one of those dreaded. The receiver just back a step as Allen throws. It gets intercepted in the end zone. There was also a quarterback sneak. Josh Allen gets a ton of yards on it. He gets getting like 15 yards on a quarterback sneak. It's like, oh my God, how is this happening? And then he fumbles the football again. I mean, that's been the thing with Josh Allen over his career. And it wasn't it last year, but it's been it for most of his career, which is he's so good and arguably on his best day is better than any quarterback in football. But we'll have just these occasional games where he puts the ball in harm's way too much. Not to say it was all on him. It certainly wasn't. And he made some good plays in this game too. But yeah, I mean, Miami is a team that, I kind of said it where it's like they're a bad team, but they're inconsistently bad. Where like they will have good performances. Like they're not going to do this for 17 games, but they do this for a few games. And unfortunately for Buffalo, it happened against you. So give Miami credit. Like they came to play. Tua was able to play well. Jalen Waddle had a big touchdown catch when he was almost traded. And they considered him, but they decided to keep him, and they're happy they did. Devon Achane has a big day, and the Miami Dolphins pull off a victory. Where do we go for Buffalo here? I mean, they're 6-3, which is still a totally respectable record. They now play Tampa Bay, another team that's 6-3. Both teams coming off of a loss. That's a 1:00 game. Why are all these good Tampa Bay games at 1:00? I don't know. But it's an important win for the Bills, who then play the Texans and the Steelers. It doesn't get too much easier. They have another Patriots game in the mix. They got to try and win the division if they're really going to have a good shot here. And they're a game and a half behind the Patriots. Obviously, you're thinking one of the ways that you do that is by beating the Patriots, right? You beat the Patriots. But part of why this loss is so important is because the Patriots do not have a divisional loss on the season. Now you have a divisional loss to a team that is not New England. So if the Patriots, even if you beat the Patriots the second time, if New England can just win all their other divisional games, then it doesn't matter. They're going to keep the tiebreaker, right? So the tiebreaker is almost certainly going to go to New England at this point. Because remember, the second tiebreaker, first tiebreaker is head-to-head. Second tiebreaker is divisional record. And so because of that, it's a big loss because it's a divisional loss. So and it's a big loss because they just keep dropping these dumb games. And they need to not do this. Their defense, the good news is the Bills' defense looks like a good defense, which is something we did not say early on in the season. So if that's good, like come postseason time, that's good. But there's all this talk about can they beat Kansas City? Well, you got other teams to worry about right now, including one in your own division. So yeah. Okay, 3 games left, and they're all the late afternoon window games. I didn't do that intentionally, but there was a reason why these 3 are there. I guess let's go to Lions. Let's talk some balls. Why don't we? Lions, Commanders. You have this situation where, first off, the game goes exactly as the way we expected. This offense for the Lions able to, it's a bad defense already for Washington, and then they're injured, and on top of it, they can have a player get ejected. I thought Kinlaw got ejected too. I guess he didn't, but they have a couple of players, really melt down defensively for Washington in kind of an embarrassing fashion. If you missed it, Deron Payne at one point just sucker punches Amon-Ra St. Brown. You also had a situation where later on Kinlaw made a contact with an official in a way that didn't get him ejected. I thought that's an automatic ejection. I don't get what's going on there. And the weirdest one was like on a play where Kinlaw gets fooled on like the snap count, ends up jumping off sides. He then like applauds in Jared Goff's face for a while, like in a way that I don't get why that wasn't a flag for taunting. That was weird. And like also, why are you doing that? Because you're the one who made the mistake. Washington lost their minds in this game. And also Detroit scored 44 points. So there was that. I mean, yeah, this Lions offense is good, and the Lions have always been amazing at just dominating bad competition, and that's what Washington is. I mean, what a disappointment. What a disaster. And honestly, Mariota didn't even play that bad. Like, we can sit here and say, well, I mean, no Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels isn't Superman. If Tom Brady's playing for this team, they're not winning this game. I mean, this is what a mess for team. Traylon Burks ends up as their leading receiver. Maybe he found something there. I don't know. But again, I was pretty critical of what Washington did this offseason. I didn't love a lot of their moves, and they've had injuries. That's been a part of it. But like, yeah, I mean, again, I wasn't expecting this, but it just feels like a lot of their offseason moves have not worked out. Where did they go from here? I mean, like, I think you're still okay. You still have a quarterback under rookie deal. You can kind of move off of some of these older players this offseason and go that way. But that might be what we have to do. You might have to do a little bit of a setback here, which is disappointing given the way the season, given the way last year went. And for Detroit, yeah, Detroit's really good. Detroit, bounce back win, kind of a get right game. And that I got on Sunday Night Football, and this is a good Sunday Night Football game. Lions Eagles, let's go. That's the game that we didn't get last year because the Lions had their injuries. They lost to Washington in the playoffs last year. We get it this year. That should be fun. Looking forward to that one. Let's move on. 2 games left. Let's go to Rams Niners. So this ruined a late window because this game was supposed to be the good game. That was going to at least, it's like, you're looking at the schedule and you're like, 2 of these games, I don't know if they're going to be good, but this one should be pretty solid. But the Rams are just playing too well. One thing we talked about in the preview show, Kyle and I talked about in the preview show was, Fred Warner is a big deal against a team like the Rams. And they had Fred Warner last time they played. And the Rams still had some offense, but with him not out there now, it's just too easy for Stafford, who is second in MVP odds right now and just behind Drake May, plus 325. So, Stafford could win MVP. Stafford really could. And I kind of talked about this earlier, but like Stafford winning MVP, that probably puts him in the Hall of Fame. In fact, I think it does. An MVP, that's a Hall of Fame quarterback. If you can have an MVP and a Super Bowl victory, I think that does it. And he's right there. So that's, I think, something that the Rams as a team will try and get for him if they can do it. But like, he's just playing really good football. He had another no looker in this one. Devontae Adams, although he did get banged up again, but he was healthy in this game. Puka Nacua is Puka Nacua. He's able to have success. And just again, Sean McVay, it's too easy. Fred Warner needs to be out there for the 49ers to have a chance. Again, Mac Jones does not play bad in this game. And Shanahan continues to do good stuff against the Rams defense, no matter who they throw out there. But the 49ers fall to 6-4. They play Arizona next week, who that feels like it could go either way. There still is some easy games on the schedule for the Niners. They play the Browns and the Titans. You expect 2 wins there. That gets you at 8. And then you have, the Cardinals, as I mentioned, the Panthers, the Bears. Can you get 2 wins out of there? Probably. Can you go 2-2? And even if you lose to the Colts and Seahawks, that puts you at 10. I think that puts you into playoffs, at least as a 7 seed. And maybe you can get healthy because Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan has said he'll maybe be back week 11. Feels like every week they're saying he'll maybe be back. So we'll see. But you assume, at least for playoffs, he would be healthy. And can that be the bump you need? We'll see. I do think, though, that taking care of business against Arizona and then that Carolina game, which is Monday Night Football. Again, why was that chosen for Monday Night Football? I will never know, but they kind of nailed it because that one totally works as a Monday Night Football game. That could be really 4 to 7 seed perhaps. So should be interesting. But yeah, huge win for Matthew Stafford and the Rams. Let's talk Arizona really struggling against Seattle. Chair McBride had a great game. He's a great player, but ultimately just not anything else to talk about for Arizona. I mean, this was all Seattle from the jump. Seattle scores 21 in the first quarter and 17 in the second quarter. Seattle had 44 points, and they only scored 6 in the second half. I mean, they really sat on this lead. I will say the one critique feels like Sam Darnold likes to put the ball in harm's way when the team is up a lot. Like just in general, no reason for Seattle to have 3 turnovers in a game like this. That's kind of the one thing you don't want to do. Um, that being said, Seattle was ridiculous in this game. Their quarterback only threw 12 times. They still had 178 passing yards in the game. The rushing attack was good, but a big part of it too was the timely turnovers and the big splash plays there from Seattle, who continues to have an elite offense and an elite defense. And I keep talking about who these teams played the following week. They played the Los Rams next week. The Rams played the Seahawks and the Buccaneers their next 2 games, so that's huge. That could be for the division. We'll see. They play each other twice, so I guess those 2 games will probably be for the division. You would assume. It's just so it's especially if one team can get a sweep there. This has just been a really impressive Seattle Seahawks team. I mean, the one they've done so much this season. Their offense has been fantastic. The one thing you look at is Darnold has had his moments where he's like, it's only when they're winning though. It's only when they're winning by a lot. Like the Texans game, they're winning by a lot, and it feels like the Seahawks want to keep him in it. This game, couple mistakes, weird, but like he's been so good this season. Darnold, he's another MVP candidate as of right now. The defense has been playing so well. And you look at their 2 losses, it's that week 1 stupid loss against the 49ers when it should have been an interception. Somehow it's the backup tight end who comes down with it for the 49ers, and they get the win there. And then it's Tampa Bay when Seattle had their entire secondary out. Now, Tampa Bay also had secondary injuries, so it was like that was just a different game. Neither one of those teams are who they are today. So, like, and the Seahawks still almost won that game. So, like, there's just so much to like about this Seattle team. They're a real contender to win it all. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. That is the show. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can. It is at Jackson Kruger. My voice cracked here at the end of the show. At Jackson Kruger. You can follow Kyle by Kyle Grondin. Also, if you like listening to podcasts, search On the Sideline podcast anywhere you get your podcast. It should be available there if you want the audio only feed. If you want to mow the lawn while listening to me or something, that's how you do that, or going to work or something. But yeah, that was this show. Again, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this type of format, what you like about it. But figured I'll do it this week and we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching or listening to the end of this. I do appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.